Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? So, welcome. Um, I'm going to present the OutSystems Data Journey, a company that I joined 8 years ago, and how we had to work back then trying to build a modern data platform with the tools that we had at hand, okay? So, feel free to ask questions at the end. I'll be available here and afterwards close to the Monte Carlo booth. So I'll start basically telling you what OutSystems is. Maybe not many of you know about this. We are the company that pioneered the low-code term in the application development industry. We are building now capabilities in our platform to use AI agents to make sure that generating code is done in a way that actually makes sense to the business, and it's just not building something quickly that takes forever to debug and to understand. And that's how we want to stay relevant in this industry. We are a fairly big company. We were founded in 2001. We have over 2,000 customers, 1,600 employees. We have over 60 million end users, and our community is quite big. And we have 20 offices in 16 different countries. But let's switch to the data team. For you to have an idea, out of these 1,600 employees, we have 30 people working in data as core team. And so just checking that the slides are showing up nicely. The journey started way before my time over there. I joined December 2016, 2017, where it says there, May 2017, that's when I joined as their first data engineering manager. The challenge was that we were selling a product, and maybe many of you that are on B2B software companies will relate to this. We were selling a product that was sold by limits. So you can go with your product up to a certain limit. If you go beyond that, we'll charge you extra. So you need to measure that. And having that telemetry on the systems and being able to look into that was not trivial for a company that was mostly working with standard databases and things like that. So we created pipelines that were spitting out JSON, semi-structured data, and we wanted to look into this information in an easy way. Most of the people at the company, even today, are people well-versed in SQL, but they don't really want to go through all the complications of doing what they call these days big data technology just to parse telemetry. So we started this adventure of how can we bring data probes from telemetry, enrich that with go-to-market information to know if our customers are using our product within the licensing agreement, but also how much more can we do with this data to be a better company and sell a better product, right? So because of that, we brought Snowflake and then Fivetran. We had also Stitch back then. I'll explain this a little bit. We started a self-reporting initiative just 1 year after I joined with Power BI. Then data quality, data trust was an issue. It was something we needed to address, and we started looking at alternatives, and we partnered with Monte Carlo to move this train forward. And we are today at a point where we're just scaling operations. We are bringing more data products into play, trying to do more things with the same people, and that means that requires that we simplify the stack and optimize how we work. I'll get to that in a bit right now, actually. So just before we created an actual data team, data was driven by engineering. So you'll get like a software developer with some free time. They'll build some telemetry probes. Some guy in professional services that was between projects will create an application that will read from those tables and create the dashboard. And nobody was really maintaining it, okay? That created what we call dispersed data, because every executive was asking their people to build solutions. Anybody can relate to that. That's usually how things start. And the fact that people wanted to know more about our customers, but we have different departments taking care of the customer and the prospect within their journey, bringing this data together was always a challenge. And bringing data from operational systems without having the tech lead next to you contextualizing whatever was happening there, it's also a risk. Okay, so we wanted to do something more. We wanted to do something better. What this means is that we wanted to bring all the crumbles of customer information, product information, licensing information into one single place, okay? We wanted to make sure that the information about customer follows the same rules everywhere. So we wanted to make sure that the metrics are defined the same way, that the relationships are well understood, and that legacy systems are deprecated at the right time. And of course, I already spoke about contextualization. We wanted to make sure that the information from operational systems was available, and how can we bring information back into the operational systems? So if you have an account executive, they'll be working on your CRM for sure. Whether it's Salesforce or something else, that's their tool of choice. How can we provide insights from analytics enriching this? Usually you'll end up using a reverse ETL process, but we didn't have like an enterprise-ready process to get this rolling. And we wanted to have our account executives with the power in their hands to know if this customer is in risk of churning, if they just started doing a trial of a new feature and things like that. So how can we create a much better 360 visualization system? And another problem that we had was we were not proactive. So we knew the data, but the data was taking time to be processed, and we didn't have people assigned to look into things. And it was just very reactive, right? Also, the journey for your prospects, our prospects, was the same. This is the product we have. You test the product. You say what is that you need. Then somebody from sales architecture will tailor it for you. Then we'll sell it. I don't know how many of you like shopping on Amazon because you don't have to talk to people. Who likes shopping without talking to people? Okay, quite a few. So a self-assisted journey is something that we want. We want to make sure that you don't need to speak to people to get the job done. Not because we hate people, well, secretly some of us do, but we need to get the ball rolling in a way that there is no friction whatsoever. So our vision was to create a full journey that goes from an anonymous person or a lead, a marketing lead, all the way to the max value. We know that the journey of your customer is somebody that has interest in your product, that somebody will, it's a trade. They will tell you who they are if you give them something in return, a trial, a demo, or something like that. Once you know that, you have the capability of knowing which account they belong to. You can do all the other things you learn in go-to-market as account-based marketing, etc. And from that point on, we want to make sure that we have a good understanding of our funnel, right? So we have a very hard time knowing who is doing what when they are anonymous. We know that, okay? It's the dark funnel. But once they reach the marketing lead moment, we may have several signals from your phone, your PC, the product that you're using that we may not know immediately if you're not identified, but we know it belongs to someone within this persona, this cluster. So you can use technologies like person ID graphs to try and match to see if from this IP there's 1, 2, or 3 people trying information, content, or using the product, and how can we tailor this experience to these people. The data architect should have a different approach than the business executive that just wants to see if our product is a fit, right? Once this is done, and the experience has been customized, we have a customer has landed. Once the customer lands, then we start getting actual telemetry from the product they purchased. And what we want to do is, how can we make sure that these customers stay using the product and reach the first value as soon as possible, and then max value. Ultimately, everybody wants to short these distances, right? The sooner we can get to max value, the better for the customer, the better for us. And the more often we can create playbooks to find similar people, similar personas that can benefit from the milestones that other customers did to reach max value, let's repeat that recipe with those to make sure that everybody's happy. And then whatever happens between max value and churning or contraction, let's extend that deadline. If my customer is churning in 100 years from now, I'm okay with it. If he's churning in 100 days from now, I have a problem. So we try to build event processing engines in data that could handle this. We call the AAP just to focus on the go-to-market, and then we built an utilization model that brought together telemetry information together with provisioning, licensing, and then enriched this with the CRM to know more or less which customers are we talking about. And everything is now being merged into one single activity model. And the whole plan is, I know, I'll get to the data platform in a moment. The whole plan is, let's allow our people in the go-to-market, and usually it's marketing and sales mostly, to do basically analysis that will tell them where people are coming from and where they are going, and using cohorts with other similar personas to make sure that they know what story to tell. And it will be amazing if they can know this in real time when they're just reaching out to a customer, right? We can also do faster reactions to business triggers. If customers are stopping things in production or stop developing things in the development environments, and we see that, let's reach out to them to see what is blocking them from moving forward, right? And I already spoke about contextualization. So let's now go to the architecture. I spoke already about the need that we had to have semi-structured data. I believe that working with JSON data is hard. It is. Even when you know how to do JSON path and you know how to do queries, it's always harder than just using plain SQL or going to Excel. So for our non-technical people, we wanted to have a solution for this, okay? Also, we know that when you have a lot of JSON data, querying that data is slow. You can have tools to do this much better. You can do like Spark transformations, but then it becomes harder to understand the transformation, but working with the data works better. We still wanted to do just this with SQL, and there are some options there. We thought about using big data technology, but the total cost of ownership was prohibitive back then, and also we didn't want to find this expensive talent in Portugal. OutSystems, the main part of the company is in Portugal, and a big data engineer is not only expensive, but hard to find. And you guys here in Big Data London will know about that, right? So we also wanted to move things to the cloud, and we knew that the ingestion of data was broken because, as I said before, different people building ETLs that are not data engineers end up having several mistakes, from the typical select star to I'm pointing to an old system that nobody was taking care of. At the end, governance for scale. What means governance for scale? I think we should always think about having data products. If you do data products, it's easier to create a life cycle to the value that you are delivering to the business. And for that, you can also have the capability of creating like a medallion architecture to have data maturity levels. Once you reach the highest maturity level, you can actually address the business directly and do business-driven modeling to make sure that these are micro products that are managed with the business. That's how you create a relationship with the business that makes sure that they trust your data. To do all of this and keep the team small, we realized that metadata was very important to make sure you knew the lineage, catalogings, and things like that. So this was the proposal, okay? Our ecosystem is far more complicated than this. We have over 200 SaaS and quite a few databases, but this is how we started. And we decided to start with Snowflake because Snowflake back then was the data, well, we started calling it the database and then Snowflake got offended. But it's a data platform in which we could run queries on SQL and JSON immediately. And they said we didn't need DBAs to run it. It's fairly true. We brought Fivetran, and back then Stitch as well, then we just switched to Fivetran because, honestly, it was compatible with Snowflake. We just wanted an ETL tool in the cloud, and back then this was the one that was compatible with Snowflake, so we brought it in. And then files were orchestrated into S3, as you may know, and the streams in real time were handled by our engineering team that basically built an AWS pipeline, because that's where we have our product settled on. These days it uses Databricks as well, and we just get the relevant events from our product to go into Snowflake directly. And as you know, our self-reporting initiative that we started in 2018 has Power BI, and RStudio is used by the by the data scientists. So this is how things started, and looks pretty cool. But some of you might look at this and say, yeah, I knew about this. I mean, 8 years afterwards, this is no news to anybody. Let me tell you what worked well, okay? So the single source of truth, it's an eternal struggle. You only stay there for a little while. You have to work making sure that the new sources are worked in such a way that we keep things rolling within the same, with the same templates, so to speak, because there's always new tools coming in, so we need to negotiate them, how to bring this into the canonical model. But that let us have also better service level indicators. Once you have an architecture like that, all the things that you can deliver are within one place where you can measure if they're coming properly or not. And we built the customer 360 tools that I mentioned before. So the utilization model was there. On this utilization model, we were able to pair it with the ARR, so revenue evolution, or the revenue change. So is this customer contracting or expanding? And can we relate this to the utilization they are giving to the product, right? With the activity analytics platform, the AAP, we started using concepts like ideal customer profile that we didn't have before. So the whole point about having personas, playbooks, removing people from the game to make sure they will just have an amazing experience on their own became available because we were able to create these journeys. We also created some attribution models to make sure which marketing campaigns were being more successful, and models like propensity to land. You know, are we going to nail this deal or not? And the systems became contextualized, right? So we have operational data. We had the KPIs over there, except rolling windows because those need to be on the Power BI, on the visualization layer. And finally, master data management became possible because once you have operational systems in one place and you do cross-analysis, you can go back to the Salesforce guys, to the Marketo guys, or any other teams and say, your data is not making sense because I have all these other tools saying me otherwise. There were things that were not working, okay? So we were still doing transformation with many different tools. There was one DBT here, one Pentaho there, plain SQL, SnowSQL in some other places, Python, R, you name it, we have it. And it was very complex to articulate with other teams the fact that the tools were all different. Data quality, right? That's why we have Monte Carlo on the logo of Monte Carlo there. So we created something that, that rhymed with Terminator, that was the data validator. That was nothing more than just SQL scripts on top of a cron tab, making sure that we could see when data will be failing. This was very reactive and non-productive. So whenever we had an alert, the problem was already there, so we were late. And the validations from the business, I don't know if this works with you, but like when you are validating data and have something ready, a dashboard, and then ask the business to validate your data, does it happen to you that they end up using different queries than the ones that were provided to you in the very beginning? So you're like, okay, this is done, let's go and test it. And they do like one quick query to see, like this difference in revenue or this thing in headcount or in this thing in engagement, and they say, no, this makes no sense. Like the units are completely wrong. So we needed to bring the business to write the validation queries with us, and they were like, I don't like that interface. I'm not using a VPN, then doing an SSH to a machine, then running. It's not going to happen, okay? Everything was worse as well because governance is still hard at that point. Many people had access to too many things. That's when you grow up, right? Like if you're in a startup, any of you, in the beginning, everybody's an admin. And then the super admin. And then suddenly you have like 10 CEO level roles. And the only thing that you have protected is my really, really important finance data and HR data. All the rest is a mess. So we were in a similar situation. And we also were orchestrating our ETLs, like many of you, using just cron tab, a normal scheduler. We had over 300 ETLs there. So it was just a nightmare to do this with a small team. Actually, before that, you can see that we tried to fix this by building these tools, right? DBT and GitHub for version control helped us having one tool for transformation. We kept Fivetran to extract and load the data. And on the later end, Snowflake has some governance capabilities, Monte Carlo as well. We actually use both. dbt gives you the data lineage into Monte Carlo as well, and Airflow became our orchestrator. And then the stack became a bit more complicated. So the changes that you see here is that the ETL tools actually increased, but it was needed. Fivetran actually handles most of it, and then we have a few others just to do a few things. Even UiPath does some sort of automation for that very stubborn finance guy that has to drop the CSVs in a folder because that's the only way they have to provide you with data. Sometimes you have people like that, so we just automate that extraction. On Snowflake, we ended up using Iceberg as well to save on costs and just basically articulate a data lake in a way that it's easier than to just do AI with non-structured data. And on the top, we started with Monte Carlo monitoring Snowflake, and now Monte Carlo is monitoring all our reports and pretty much DTL as well. Not on all the tools, but the tools that matter at least. So what happened as we grew? So this started, Snowflake started because we love SQL, okay? After 8 years, why are we still using Snowflake? It's actually a product that we like a lot. It makes sense to us. It's simple to use. And they just building a complete data platform, right? They just brought you, they have tools for everything these days. I'm not saying I use them. They have even an ETL tool that we don't use it, that is Flow. But there are 3 things that I'd like to tell you. On the strategy side, Snowflake is working with us on things that have nothing to do with data. Like their pricing team is amazing, and they partner with us to help us rebuild our pricing strategy. The way they grew so fast in the market is an example to many of the companies over here, and they can tell you that. And on top of that, working with their product team brings a lot of knowledge to us, like in the sense of how you can also prepare your own deployments and engage with customers about new features that you want to launch. Another thing that we did with Snowflake that we love is cost control. I think it's quite transparent to see how much you're spending on Snowflake by looking into their data. We were able to do dynamic warehouse resizing and things like that to save money. Like we don't use standard tables for temporary loads and things like that. We have consumption dashboards on top of this, and we learn how to do proper clustering for performance. I'm saying this because there are lots of companies that will make your life easier to save money on Snowflake, but you can start doing your first steps just using your brain. And brain sometimes is cheaper than just bringing another company. I'm not saying they are not good. At scale, there will be a point where you need these tools, but you should be careful about costs on tools like this from day one, in my opinion. Fivetran. So why are we with Fivetran these days? So we got Fivetran for the simple reason that Snowflake was a destination, okay? But we use Marketo. I'm not going to say how much I hate Marketo. I'll just leave it at that. It's not the best API I've seen. It's not the fastest API I've seen. But we have it, and we need it. And bringing data from it is a challenge. Fivetran was intuitive. You just, you just connect to the systems. Immediately you have checkboxes to say what is that you want. Next, it's done. You have data coming in. It's a dream for a data engineer. Today, I can tell you that we have over 130, I think it's more actually, but at least 130 ETLs are maintained with just one person. And he does, maybe that's like 15% of his time. So this is very effective for us, cost effective. The orchestration, Fivetran runs the ETLs, but we don't use their orchestration. We have put all orchestrations on Airflow using APIs to concentrate and simplify the stack. That made our life easier because we can rerun things, not only for Fivetran, for all the other dependencies as well. And the only thing that I'd like to tell you today is that pricing models change. Fivetran has changed their pricing models in the last 3 or 4 years, at least a couple of times. Just be careful again. Cloud costs is an issue, so be on top of that. I'll give you 3 tips there. They have light connectors where you can write the code for your connector. And they can as well, the thing is when you have to build a light connector, you have to you will spend the same effort building the connector with any other ETL tool that you might have on your stack. So be careful with that. Also, they provide DBT templates. And at least if you're using Salesforce, DBT templates for Salesforce formulas are amazing because you'll just basically avoid a lot of trouble with formula fields that are like snapshots of the data. And when the formula changes, the underlying data does not. If you don't know what I'm talking about with Fivetran, that's fine. But there are some issues with calculated fields that basically need to go to the source to run the formula. And they now have just acquired Census, which is a reverse ETL tool. So if you want to do reverse ETL in an easy way, you could go and use these guys. Monte Carlo. So we started with Monte Carlo not too long ago, 2023. It's not like data observability has been a big thing before, I don't know, COVID maybe? So, as you know, in 2023, as I said, we had the data validator, SQL monitors on cron tab, no data lineage, and no data catalog. So just for data monitoring, we were not bringing Monte Carlo. We brought Monte Carlo and checked other tools as well to see, can we have a tool that has a little bit of data lineage, cataloging, and quality? That's what we did. And then they have like automatic monitors, so it made our life easier. The simple data catalog was very simple. But once we switched to DBT, we got the best of the DBT world together with the data catalog itself. And today, what I can tell you is that we are building more data products per full-time employee, per data engineer. So we can maintain more data products because we are not spending so much time fixing problems and being on top of things because this is just very proactive. And our SLAs went up in pretty much everything. For the future, what is that we are doing? Now it connects to operational data, Monte Carlo. So we are working with the master data management teams over there to make things run well. And we are working on the AI world. So we want to make sure that our agents trust our Snowflake agents, so to speak, when we are talking data to each other. Okay? And just one final note. Our data engineers at OutSystems, we use performance metrics to drive their bonuses. At least one metric has to do with data quality, and that changes the game. Not because Monte Carlo became really important for that, but because they are far more careful about finishing the job by having a validation on top of it. So my takeaways on this one is, for us, data quality stop being a technical challenge, has to be a strategic enabler. Okay? If you don't think that's the way, maybe it's not the right time for you to think about this. But for us, it was. If you start thinking about how the business benefits from quality, instead how will I save time with my developers, all of this makes more sense. By fueling trust, we have better deliveries. And for us, we want to unlock the full potential of low-code innovation. It's hard to innovate in low-code if you don't trust the data. Believe me. Building modern data platforms is unique. If I had to join another company right now, it will be a different stack for sure. You will have to juggle between innovation, tech challenges, the business needs, talent, which people you have available, and how much money do you have. All of that will affect your original plan. It's obvious. So I don't have the formula for you to be successful, okay? This is what I did. I could have done it differently. What I can tell is that you should look at the companies you partner with. Sometimes they are small, sometimes they are big, but if they have a similar vision to yours, even if they're not selling the same product, that's one of the best skills we had. We even stay sharp talking to the competitors, their competitors and our own competitors. It's good to see what's on the market, and we are not betraying anybody by doing that, okay? And beyond building solutions, if you partner with these companies, having peers, for us it's very important to have peers in the software B2B industry. Like I said before, helping shaping the industry for us, shaping our strategy to go into the market is fundamental. And I think this is it. We want to empower teams with reliable data, a scalable platform, and bold ideas. That's a mouthful, but it is what we are trying to do. We believe that low code is more than just generating code. We really believe that, so I'm not like I'm not believing that AI will be this huge monster and everybody will be AI. I think there's a bubble that will burst in some aspects, but there's definitely a new paradigm that is changing how we work and our lives, and we need to be ready for it. So I'm not going to drop my machine learning models right now, but I need to be ready for AI in the sense that we will have generative AI, agents, and all of that. And you can only deliver on this if you have the right data at your hands and your business believes that you have the right data at your hands. And that's about it.